Hello and welcome to another video. Today we will report this tiny little thing here. That's not exactly tiny, but it's more like a medium-sized Phalaenopsis, which is a hybrid called Phalaenopsis Mini Mark. So if you love these Phalaenopsis and you want to see me reporting these videos for you, so the Phalaenopsis Mini Mark, it is a hybrid that lots of people look for. It should be cheap. I think in Europe you can find very cheap ones. In the UK usually they are not that cheap. They can be expensive. I don't know why, because it's a complex hybrid. So it's the sort of hybrid that you should look after it as you look after any of other Phalaenopsis. So the same care. I will leave some videos linked down below where I talk about how to take care of Phalaenopsis orchids. What people adore about these Phalaenopsis is because it has this super orange, bright lip, and it's not easy for you to see very orange Phalaenopsis. Usually there is a mix between purple and yellow, and then you have this sort of, you think it's orange, but it's not actually orange. So this hybrid, it does have very orange lip, white petals and sepals full of dots. So it's very charming and beautiful. This is the first time that I have this plant. It was gifted to me by my brother-in-law, who potted it in this inorganic, no, it's actually a mix of organic and inorganic mix. So it has been here for a while, so I know it has no pests, but it needs to be repotted in my usual mix because that's how I keep my plants. And every time I have to water this one, I soak it for 15 minutes and I remove the water, and I don't want to do that forever. So that's the main reason, because the plant is pretty healthy in here. If you want to pot your orchid in full bark, it's okay. It will enjoy. It's growing so many roots. It's full of roots inside this pot, so adore this mix, but I need to do something that will be easier for myself. That's why I need to repot this plant. I don't see any leaves sprouting from the crown yet, which worries me a little bit, but hopefully the crown is healthy. When I got it, it had mealybugs. I cleaned it, and then thrips were also attacking it, but I have faith that the crown is healthy. So it has 3 flowers. The other flower spike is completely gone. So it is in bloom for a while now, more than a month, I think for 2 months or so. And it's time for this flower spike to go. So what I usually do is I usually come and cut the flower spike from the base, and I wait for it to produce new roots, new leaves, and then when the temperature drops in the new year, it will produce brand new flower spikes. That's what I do with most of my Phalaenopsis. I only keep the flower spike in certain occasions. I'll leave the video down below where I talk more about that. But in this case, I will just cut it from the base and I will pot it in my usual mix. That's bark and moss. I have just a little bit of moss that I think will be enough for this plant. And in the case of this pot, since it was used only with this Phalaenopsis, I think I can reuse the pot. So let's check the size of the root system, how is everything in here, and hopefully I will be able to just reuse the same pot and pot it nicely. I do believe it's a very healthy plant, so let's look at that together. So I know that these flowers are gorgeous. A lot of people want to have these hybrids, and it's a little bit sad that I will cut the flower spike, but there is a greater chance that if I repot it with the flower spike, the plant is feeding the flower spike, is spending energy on it, and I want the plant to save all of the energy that it can and spend energy on growing new roots and new leaves. So that's the reason why I'm not going to keep it today. If I was completely sure that this plant was very healthy and that it would enjoy my mix, I would keep it, but since it's something new for me, it's the first time that I'm repotting it, I will prioritize the healthy of my orchid instead of the flowers. But I know the next year we'll have a more beautiful show than this. So It's sad, but that's what I'm gonna do. Can you see I'm suffering a little bit? So I'm gonna just come to the base of this plant like so, and there we go. It's done. Yay! So let's start repotting it. So that's all the moss that I have, and it will be enough because Phalaenopsis orchid, they like to have lots of air around their root system. They like to dry out very well in between watering, at least where I live in my climate. So I don't mind not having a lot of moss this time. Need to buy more, but for the Phalaenopsis will be okay. So let's look inside the pot and see what we have. My plant is dry, that's my fault. I should have watered it before. I think I've already told you that, but when the root system is wet, it's easier to remove it from the pot. This is a transparent plastic pot, so the way for you to remove your orchid from it is just squeeze the pot gently and the orchid will detach from it. That's what I'm doing, so I don't want to break any roots. As you can see, it's full of roots. So let's see if that's okay now. So my brother-in-law bought brand new mix to repot this plant while he had it in Germany with him. Grabbing my orchid from the base here because I don't want to break any roots or... So he bought brand new mix when he repotted. He doesn't have much experience with orchids, but he has other house plants. So in this case, he have done a very good job. So it has some moss in here and some piece of bark. The bark's not a good quality, which is okay. Since I was only soaking it when it was completely dry and it has been in this mix for less than a year, the mix is still good. It's not a completely broken down and old mix. So I'm very happy with the results. As you can see, it has a beautiful root system. Oh my gosh, very, very healthy plant. I don't want to stress it so much, so I'm gonna just rinse it very quickly to remove all of these chunk piece of bark. The root system is very, very dry, so I will water it a little bit so it will be more flexible for me to work with it as well. I have a larger pot there. I will grab it and we will repot it in this larger pot. I managed to remove a few bits of bark here and there, but not a lot. I could start looking to see if I have any any dead root, but I can see everything is very, very healthy, which is great. If you don't know how to check if your orchid, I broke a root. That's sad. Can you see here? It's completely broken, and I don't think it will grow back, but I will let it be. So if you don't know how to check if your orchid root is dead or alive, you just press it gently and you notice that some of the roots will be mushy, like this bit here. It's completely dry and mushy and I don't need these roots. So this one is not a healthy one. I can remove it since it has a whole root system, very, very healthy root system, which is amazing. I don't need to cut any roots from here because I can see that it's all alive. So the next step is to do the same thing that I do with all of my orchids. Oh gosh. It's a very, very long root system. Very, very healthy. I'm happy with that. So I'll do the same thing. Just add a little layer of moss. And then I will need to accommodate my orchid because the root is very long and large. So otherwise it won't fit. So let's try, see what's happening here. This one is the snapped orchid, so I think I'm gonna remove this section here that I snapped. It was my fault. When we have an orchid that has so many roots, it's a little bit more trickier for us to work with it without disturbing any of the roots. I wish I could do it, but try not to disturb it so much. Do the best that you can. I know that it's difficult because especially I didn't soak it before, so it's not very flexible to work with, and you can snap one root here and there. Hopefully it won't stress my orchid because it has lots of good roots. So now I'm going to start adding lots of bark. Phalaenopsis, they enjoy the air, as I said. I live in a place that it's not hot, so water doesn't evaporate very, very, very fast. So the option to go with loads of moss with Phalaenopsis is not good because you can rot the roots of your orchid. As you can see, this one was super happy on the mix that my brother-in-law potted, which was basically bark with some, I don't know, strands of moss and some clay and other beads. So it was basically very mixed material, but perfect for herbicides. I need to squeeze the pot here and there because the bark is having difficulties to travel through the root system. And look, I haven't been the best to fertilize this plant this year because I couldn't water with, usually I was taking it to the sink. That's what I do with my plants that are potted in full bark and that I need to soak. It was the same thing with the Wrinkle Stylus gigantea. Sorry, I don't have any other things, like I don't have bamboo skewer and something that I could use to move the mix down, so I'm using my scissors here, but very, very gently because I don't want to break any of the root system. Like my Wrinkle Stylus, I was always taking to the sink and I forgot to fertilize it many, many times. I didn't have any slow release fertilizing it, which came potted from the nursery or garden center. In this case, my brother-in-law potted up without any slow release fertilizer. And even so, like that, it managed to grow so many roots. So it's a very, very healthy Phalaenopsis, which is great. Who doesn't love to have healthy plants, huh? For videos, it's amazing when we have issues, so we can talk about the issues. But come on, it's perfect to have something so beautifully healthy like this. So now we're gonna finally feed this plant. I will add the slow release fertilizer and I will water it with all of my other orchids so it will be properly hydrated. Phalaenopsis are heavy feeders, by the way, so that's why I'm mentioning that it grows so many roots. Maybe the bloom show wasn't amazing, but I don't believe this plant was looking amazing like leaf-wise. I can see that these leaves, thrips munched on them, so they had mealybugs before and then thrips attacked these. I need to manage my thrips infestation. Hopefully it will keep growing and producing more and more roots, and next year we're gonna have a beautiful Phalaenopsis Mini Mark bloom show. That tiny, tiny flowers will be all around again. I will keep poking the medium through because in this case here I can see that I have spaces to fill. I don't need it to be compact. I live in a cool space, as I said before, so lots of air here. More, the plant will enjoy and will love all the air gaps that I will leave, and I'm sure there are lots of air gaps in between the root ball because the root was very, very large. I'm only covering tiny spots here and there that I can see through the plastic pots. It's just moving so the bark can go down and find other spots in the pot. I think the Phalaenopsis will enjoy that. Even the slow release fertilizer now is going down as well. Nothing amazing, nothing that will block the air movement in the pot. It's just for it to travel a little bit. It has a lot of bark in here. It's just a little bit of moss, which is perfect for Phalaenopsis. Let me clean up and let's conclude this video. So here it is, my beautiful Phalaenopsis Mini Mark, fully repotted in its new pot. Let me remove it here. Full of moss and bark around its spot. I hope you can see from there. I will give it some good watering because my moss was completely dry. I think will be really good for my plant. I will place it in one of my shelving under some growing lights, and I will keep looking after it as I do with any other Phalaenopsis. The only thing that worries me at the moment is my pest issue, so I need to treat it. I don't want it to affect my Phalaenopsis. And for the amount of roots that we saw together inside this pot, it made me feel really, really happy. The only thing that worries me is these leaves, that they grow a little bit smaller, but that's normal because that's the first year that I had this plant. So hopefully it will produce large leaves as it used before. After a year, this plant will be full of roots, and the roots will almost not fit inside this pot. That's what I wish for. I know that's going to be really hard to repot, but it made me so happy to discover that it had so many roots. Who doesn't love a healthy plant, right? So I will keep you posted and I will update you if I see something new sprouting from this one. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment down below. And just before I go, I'm not going to repot any more plants next week and the following one. We're going to have some other videos just to give you a break from so many reportings. And that's it. I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.